Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are ready to jump into a really fascinating deep dive today.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
It is President Trump issued an executive order to freeze federal funding.
Yeah,
And we're going to talk all about the ins and outs and the legality of
it
it.
should be fun.
And we're going to get into that. But first, let me introduce our expert.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here to talk about this.
So the main thing about this is that this executive order,
Right.
it kind of pits presidential power against Congress's power of the purse.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes this such a fascinating case.
Mm.
You know, it's not just about politics.
Yeah.
We're talking about some, foundational principles in our Constitution.
Right. And what are the limits of presidential power?
Exactly.
Okay, so Trump's executive order basically puts an indefinite pause on a lot of federal funding. So we're talking grants, loans, foreign aid, a lot of stuff. And his reason behind this is he wants to review programs that contradict his policies.
Neat.
Or, and I'm quoting here, promote Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies.
Oh, boy.
So that's where things get a little tricky.
Yeah.
Can he just do that? Can a president just halt funding that Congress has already approved?
Right, that's the big question here. And the Constitution seems to be pretty clear on this.
Oh, what does it say?
Well, Article I gives Congress the power of the purse.
Oh, so Congress controls the money.
Right, exactly. So it's like Congress holds the wallet, the president can't just, grab it and run.
Right, and say, nope, not spending this.
Exactly.
Okay, so, we always do our research for these deep dives.
Of course, always.
And we found some expert opinions on this.
Yeah, what are the legal scholars saying about this whole thing?
Well, constitutional law professor Michael Dorff puts it pretty bluntly.
Okay, let's hear it.
He says that the president cannot stop it, even temporarily.
Wow.
So it sounds like, according to him, this executive order is on shaky legal ground.
Definitely on shaky ground, yeah.
But, this isn't the first time that a president has tried something like this.
Oh, definitely not. Presidential power grabs are a tale as old as time.
Didn't something similar happen with Nixon?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
What Trump's doing here is what we call impoundment, which is basically when a president tries to hold back money that Congress has already said should be spent.
Oh, so I don't like how you're spending this money, so I'm just going to hold on to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that causes some major friction between the president and Congress.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, it's been a point of contention for a while now.
So let's talk about Nixon in the 1970s.
Okay.
He wanted to withhold funds from the Environmental Protection Agency,
Oh,
programs that he didn't like, of course, and what happened there?
well, that's when we get this landmark Supreme Court case, Train v. City of New York.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, 1975.
Yeah.
And the court basically said, nope, the president can't just ignore Congress when it comes to spending.
Wow.
It was a major win for Congress and a big check on presidential power.
So Congress won that round.
Yeah, they did.
But they didn't just leave it at that, did they?
Oh, no. They were not about to let another president pull a Nixon.
So what did they do?
They passed the Impoundment Control Act of 1974.
Oh, so this is basically to stop presidents from messing with spending.
You got it. It laid out very specific steps that a president has to follow if they want to request what's called a rescission of funds.
Oh, what is a rescission?
It's basically when they formally ask Congress to cancel spending.
Okay.
So it's not just my way or the highway anymore.
Right, so it put a limit on how much a president can just start funding.
Exactly. And one of the key parts of this law is that there's a 45-day clock for Congress to think about those requests.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And legal experts have pointed out that Trump's executive order didn't even bother with these steps.
So it seems like they really weren't prepared for this.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder there were so many legal challenges that came in.
Yeah. A lot of people were not happy.
State attorneys general, all sorts of groups. They jumped right in to try and block this funding freeze.
Yeah. They definitely weren't messing around.
They were ready for this.
Seems like it.
And the courts didn't waste any time either.
No, they didn't.
U.S. District Judge Lauren L. Alicon,
Okay.
she issued a temporary stay which puts everything on hold until February 3rd.
Got it.
And I read that Judge Alicon was pretty concerned that the government didn't seem to know exactly which programs were going to be affected by this pause.
Yeah. That's a little concerning.
It sounds like a mess.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
So this whole thing brings up an important question.
What's that?
What are the consequences? What are the real-world consequences of a move like this?
Right. Like, what's going to happen if these programs suddenly lose funding?
Exactly.
Wow.
I mean, millions of people depend on these programs.
That's a lot of people.
For school lunches, for Medicaid, for so many things.
Right.
And to just leave them in limbo like that creates
Yeah.
a lot of uncertainty.
Definitely a lot of hardship, too.
Right.
People rely on these programs.
And even if the funding gets restored quickly,
Yeah,
the disruption alone can be so damaging.
absolutely. Just the confusion, the scramble to try to find other resources,
Yeah.
that all takes a toll.
And Professor Steve Zladek,
Okay.
who's a legal expert,
Right.
he even predicted that this case will probably end up in the Supreme Court.
Wow, all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That's huge.
What does he think will happen? Does he think the executive order will hold up?
Well, he seemed pretty confident about the outcome.
Okay, what did he say?
He said, and I'm quoting here, "I do not expect this to be a case that divides the justices down the middle."
So he seems pretty sure about that.
Yeah, he does.
But I wonder, is it really that cut and dry? Could there be any surprises in how the Supreme Court might rule?
That's a great question. It really shows just how complex this whole situation is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is complex. And speaking of complexity, it sounds like there might be more to this story than meets the eye. Didn't Zladek mention something about a right-wing think tank?
Oh, yeah, Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Yeah, it seems like they've been pushing for this kind of funding freeze for a while.
Interesting. So this might be part of a larger plan then, not just like a one-off executive order.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But Vladek raises a really important question.
Okay.
Did they actually think this through legally?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing to have a political goal, right?
Right.
But to just ignore established legal precedent,
Right.
it just makes you wonder.
Yeah, because we've seen that there's the whole Impoundment Control Act.
Right.
And a bunch of Supreme Court decisions saying the president can't just do whatever they want with funding.
Exactly.
So, you know who thought this was a good idea? That's what I want to know.
Right. It makes you wonder if maybe they didn't consult with the lawyers enough.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like maybe they thought they could just push the boundaries a little bit and see what they could get away with.
Yeah. Maybe somebody in the budget office thought, let's just try it.
It does feel a bit like a shoot first and ask questions later approach. Like they knew this was going to end up in court, but they decided to go for it anyway.
It really speaks to, I think, the current political climate.
Okay.
Everyone's on high alert
Yeah.
when it comes to this balance of power between the president and Congress.
Oh, so like they were ready to pounce.
Yeah. The legal community advocacy groups state they're all watching very closely for any attempt to sidestep those established procedures.
That's a good point. And, you know, Judge Alican responded so quickly.
She did.
It's like she was saying, hold up, let's figure out what's going on here before we turn people's lives upside down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a sense of urgency with this.
Yeah.
And not just because of the legal principles.
Right.
It's because real people depend on these programs.
Yeah.
Remember what Vladek said?
What did he say?
This is a 13 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that really stuck with me.
Yeah, this isn't just a theoretical debate.
No,
This is people's livelihoods, their access to health care,
absolutely.
their ability to put food on the table.
Yeah, this is serious stuff.
This is serious stuff. So all this talk about the president and Congress battling it out over money makes me wonder,
What's that?
what can a president actually DO if they don't like how Congress is spending money?
Right.
I mean, they can't just sit back and watch, can they?
Right. They do have options.
Okay, so what can they do?
Well, the most obvious approach is to work with Congress.
Oh, okay.
Propose cuts to the budget advocate for changes to existing programs.
Okay, so like compromise.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Negotiating, compromising, all that messy stuff.
The play nice approach.
Yeah, the work within the system approach.
Right, but what if that doesn't work?
Right.
What if Congress just says no?
Well, even then, the president isn't completely powerless.
Okay.
They can use their platform to try and sway public opinion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, speak out about their position,
Yeah.
rally support, put pressure on Congress to reconsider.
So like appeal to the voters and hope that they put pressure on their elected officials.
Exactly. And don't forget about the veto. While they can't veto individual spending items, they can veto a whole spending bill if they really don't like it.
Right.
And of course, Congress can override a veto,
Right.
but it's not easy.
No, it's not.
So,
Yeah, the veto, that's a big one. That's a powerful tool.
yeah, it is.
It reminds us that, you know, the president does have some leverage in this situation.
Exactly.
Even with the Impoundment Control Act.
Yeah, and it creates this interesting dynamic between the different branches of government.
Okay.
In theory, this tension should lead to more thoughtful and careful decision-making.
Right.
But of course, you know, things don't always work out that smoothly in reality.
That's for sure. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole issue
Yeah, just a little bit.
of presidential power, congressional authority, who controls the purse strings.
That's a big one.
There's so much more to explore here.
There really is, and this deep dive has been really fascinating.
It has.
But as with any complex topic, it seems like we've uncovered more questions than answers.
That's true.
The interplay of legal precedents, political maneuvering, and real-world consequences is just really captivating.
It is. And that's what makes these deep dives so interesting.
Right.
We're not just listing facts.
No.
We're getting into those nuances, the uncertainties, the gray areas.
Where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's about acknowledging that complexity and understanding that there are often many different perspectives to consider.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
What do you say we wrap things up and give our listeners a chance to digest all this information?
Sounds good to me. I'm excited to hear your final thoughts on this fascinating case.
Okay, we are back, and we've been talking all about presidential power, funding battles.
Yeah.
The Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question is,
Okay.
what does this all mean for us? Like everyday people
Right.
trying to make sense of this whole thing.
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, this case is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Even if this executive order gets thrown out, it brings up some really big picture issues about how our government works.
Yeah.
These power struggles and who pays the price when things get messy.
Yeah, it's true. It's easy to get lost in all the legal stuff and the political back and forth.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's people that are affected by these decisions. Like, you think about the families who depend on school lunch programs,
Right.
seniors on Medicare,
Absolutely.
organizations that are doing really important work in their communities.
Yeah, they all get caught in the crossfire.
They do. And that's why I think Lodek's point about the human cost is so important.
It is.
Even just like a temporary disruption
Right.
to these programs can have a ripple effect that lasts so much longer than the legal battle itself.
Yeah.
The uncertainty, the fear, the scramble to find resources,
It's stressful.
it's a lot.
It really is.
And I think it also highlights the need for transparency
Yeah.
and clear communication from our leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, remember how Judge Alicorn was concerned that the government didn't even know which programs would be affected?
Right.
That's a problem.
It is.
It's not just about, legal authority.
No.
It's about responsible governing.
Exactly. When decisions are made so hastily, without really thinking about the consequences or clearly communicating with the people who are going to be impacted,
Yeah.
it just erodes trust in our institutions.
And that is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
So where do we go from here? What can we do as, engaged citizens to make sure that our voices are heard and that our leaders are held accountable?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to stay informed and stay engaged.
Okay.
Don't just skim the headlines or take sound bites at face value.
Right.
Really dig deeper, understand the issues, and form your own opinions.
It's true. We are just bombarded with information these days.
Yeah,
So critical thinking is more important than ever.
it is.
We have to be really careful about what we read and what we believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And once you have formed your own opinions, don't be afraid to share them.
Okay.
Contact your elected officials, talk to your friends and family,
Right.
support organizations that are doing work that you believe in.
Yeah.
Democracy thrives on participation,
That's right.
so never underestimate the power of your voice.
So you're saying we can't just sit back and, hope for the best.
No, definitely not.
We have to get involved.
Yeah, we have to be informed, engaged, and active participants in this process.
Love it. On that note,
Yeah?
I think we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us as we explored, presidential power and funding battles and what it all means for everyday people.
This was a good one.
It was. And as always, keep those questions coming, stay curious.
And thanks for listening, everyone.